Can they hear me? Can they hear me live out there? Next beat. That ain't the beat I want to do.
Those was wood
another
beats
beat.
right
Another
there.
beat. Nope. Give me another beat. Give me another beat. Nope. That's not it. That's the beat. Turn it up.
Oh, word.
Turn it up. I gotta hear it a little louder. Can you make it louder than my headphones? Turn me up in my headphones. I'm still stuck in the 80s/90s. Lottos, kangaroo boots, nanny ghosts, Velas, jumpsuits and troops, Junos, color Levi's, Bugs Bunny sweaters with the rhinestone ring on it. Fighting and making up the next day. Nobody getting shot. Working and hustling to get it, or get got. We had love for the streets, our family, our foes, our friends. Respect for the elderly. Pager/payphone, sneaking into Adams Theater. Watching Crush grooving tougher than leather. Hopping gates out the college port to bang out, cause you don't wanna get caught at mom's crib or at Vaughn's crib. Eating funny dinner with the fam. Church every Sunday, 8 o'clock a.m. And even if I fell asleep in the back row or played sick, no matter what, man, I still had to go 80s, baby. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. 80s, baby. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper.
Welcome back, everybody, all my fellow tinfoil hat-wearing mofos. How you doing? This is the X-Cast, webisode number 64-0 of the X-Cast. O, what does the O stand for? The O means that this is another Deep Issues episode. It's day 4896 in the search for Tim Chevelday. We have a packed house of guests tonight, and we have a packed docket of things to talk about. I am your host, Josh Houselander. Tonight's Deep Issue is the Deep State / Shadow Government. With me, as always, our director, the heart and soul, the backbone of everything here at TheEmpireMedia.com, Adam Hernandez, and our Deep Issues experts, Kyle Puska, Ed Zaharsky. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Awesome.
Yay. Adam,
a lot of enthusiasm over there,
Adam's in a bad mood tonight. He doesn't like this particular topic of the Deep State, and I'm going to theorize here why Adam doesn't like this Deep State topic, because he thinks we are going to be overly critical of the Democratic Party instead of the Republican Party tonight.
What, isn't that the case every single
this is why Adam was all on board with Bohemian Grove.
Let's just say I'm glad
that's rag on Republicans.
I'm glad Kyle's here tonight, because at least Kyle,
the voice of reason.
At least Kyle brings some sense to all of this. Sorry, Ed.
It's all good. It's all good. You know, this is why I love having Ed and Adam together, because they are polar opposites on everything in the entire universe.
We agreed on some occasion.
You agree, and you're both wrong on the idea that people shouldn't eat meat. That is the only thing you two agree on. And Kyle's with you on that one as well.
Yeah, but I cheat probably more than they do.
I respect your cheating. I eat enough meat for all four of us, so we're.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. That's why I do it. I do it for humanitarian purposes.
I think you're part of the meat lobby.
Bro, I think so. I think
state.
So.
You're a prime candidate there.
But tonight we are talking about the Deep State. We are talking about the shadow government. We're talking about some of these things that are, some of these terms, not necessarily ideas, but some of these terms are kind of new to the world of thinking deeper, or conspiracy theories, if you will. I don't know that this is necessarily a conspiracy theory completely, but it kind of is to some degree. But I just kind of want to ask you guys, what is the Deep State? What is that exactly? I mean, do you guys have like a brief intro? Like, what exactly is the Deep State?
Well, kind of like you said, a shadow government, essentially elected officials not acting in the interest of the people who elected them, but rather some other form of control.
Basically, somebody more powerful than the people who we elected to be in power.
My point is, there's individuals within each of the critical departments. Department of Defense, Justice Department, CIA, all those, they have what they call long-tenured employees, and I think that's how they hide it a little bit. But these are people that are in place, and basically I think it's the unwritten rule, they're not touchable.
Sure.
You know, and I think that's my classification of the deep state. They're people that have jobs, but yet they make important decisions.
Sure.
And they're influenced by a number of different people because they're in Washington. They're influenced by everything. And in fact, I think the big difference of the deep state is now it's being financed by private enterprise. And I think they're putting money into it just to keep control.
No, good point.
So there's my deep state.
And that, in essence, what you're saying is, I think these people continue to have jobs, people whose names nobody would know. But
yeah, they're known, but not known.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, not names.
They're not everyday names.
Even people who pay attention to politics, even somebody who can rattle off every member of the cabinet off the top of their head, isn't necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, a classic example from my viewpoint. Ron Mercer and Rebecca Mercer. Those are two deep state people. Okay, they're behind the scenes. They're very private individuals, but they're the ones controlling a lot of what's going on. At least. This was influential into, from Breitbart's standpoint.
Sure.
Breitbart's, on the same... But to be honest, I don't think they're quite as extreme as Breitbart, and I think they're trying to peel away from him a little bit because they have a big, greater agenda. Their whole mission, I think, is just data control. They want to be able to manipulate the media in their way just by controlling social media, and that's their long-term objective. So that's a way of the deep state interacting, and there's rumor that they've had their support behind our wonderful Mr. Ted Cruz, and then after that, once Cruz was a loss, then they moved over to Trump, and so that's so if you dig all through it, they're there.
Sure,
they're there.
Well, and Kyle, you're kind of already getting into my next question too, which is, what is the deep state? Okay, it's the shadow government. It's this idea that there's people who are unelected who are more powerful than those who are elected,
right?
In essence. But the next question is, and this one is where the deep state gets deeper, or the deep issue gets deeper, and that is, who is the deep state? Who exactly are these people? Is it, there's the Fed, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, secret societies, lobbyists, former leaders who are no longer supposed to be in power, the bankers, Bohemian Grove, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergs. Is Congress part of the deep state? I don't know. They're elected. But the cabinet, Kyle and Ed both brought up the cabinet to some degree. And we view the cabinet as very important figures. But even the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Treasury, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Homeland Security, of Veterans Affairs, of Health and Human Services, all these people in the cabinet, none of these positions are laid out in the Constitution. None of these positions are elected. They're appointed by a dude who's elected and approved by some other people who are elected, but they're not elected.
I think I actually liked what you said before we went on the air, Ed. It's lobbyists, government lobbyists. If that's, if you're looking at a true deep state, then you're looking at government lobbyists. You're looking at, for instance, like the NRA. The NRA can be seen as a shadow type of government because they are directing a lot of these.
Any entity, let's just call it that wants to influence governmental policy could be classified as a deep state. It could be. And I think the real question now is, people are anxious to say, how far does that stretch? You know what I mean? Because, there's people that really were hoping there was a deep state to control Trump. I mean, that's really what, the recent, recent, knowledge is. Do I believe that? No, but you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
The recent term of deep state, because this is something that we were discussing too before we went on the air tonight, was deep state being a relatively new term. I think deep state is more or less an excuse for Donald Trump. I think it's an excuse for him not getting what he wants to get done. For him not, quote unquote, winning, for him getting a lesson in the separation of powers. I think that's what Donald Trump and some of his White House cronies have resorted to in calling and referring to what the deep state, what they think it is. I think they believe that it's them getting a lesson in the separation of powers, and Donald Trump realizing he can't run the country like he runs his business.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go like that.
I can definitely see some points there, Adam, but although the deep state is a newer idea for sure, or not a newer idea.
It's been around. It's
a newer term. It's not a new idea. The idea that people are saying the people we elected aren't the ones really running the country, but it definitely even the term deep state isn't new to Donald Trump's presidency. Yeah, I mean it definitely is not.
And let's just put it this way: if you ascribe to any conspiracy theorist anything, you basically believe in the deep state.
Sure.
Yeah,
it more depends on how one defines it.
Yeah.
As opposed to whether or not you believe in it. And that's something I wanted to ask you guys that, we did a show in the past about secret societies.
Yeah.
We did, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we did a separate show on just the Illuminati. We did one on Illuminati NWO.
I missed one. Yep.
And we did one on sorry about that noise. Kyle dropped his mic for a second. We did one on Illuminati NWO, and then we talked Illuminati again on our Secret Societies episode. So we've definitely covered this, but that's kind of a question I have is the deep state, the Illuminati, the New World Order, are these different names for the same thing? Or are these different things?
Well, it's almost, I think it's kind of the same thing, but just a politically correct way maybe to say it, because also like we were talking about off the air, if you come out and say New World Order, you get that conspiracy theorist label, and you're cuckoo, you're crazy. Whereas I think at this point you can say the deep state, and maybe people interpret it with a slightly different meaning, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, those, because it doesn't refer to just, say, like the Illuminati, but like we're saying, it could be a lobbyist. If you give a bunch of money to one of the candidates and they get in office, and then they're basically doing what you want to do, by definition, you're part of the deep state. You are basically that shadow person controlling that elected official.
Right. So I think, to answer your question, Josh, I think it's about layers, different layers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think each layer has their own objective. The Bilderbergs, for example, they just I think their ultimate goal is to control the financial markets. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And, so they put all their resource into that. Is that the wrong thing? Well, yeah, it's not transparent, but, I think it is how the world goes around, and then just kind of layer it down, and you can see the same thing. And like, I think we've all agreed to, any type of influence to change policy would be classified as the deep state. So, and you know what? This has existed from the dawn of time.
Sure.
So I think it's also serves as a good check and balance too, for our government, because otherwise we'd be, authoritarian.
No, and by you saying that too, kind of bringing a historical aspect to it, Kyle, I think that, this kind of it does. When you say, hey, this has always been here, this is kind of something that's been around long before our system, even in a system of a monarchy, when the king is off,
everybody's always
chasing peasant girls and drinking wine and eating peeled grapes. Who's running the show?
Yeah,
it's these people around him. It's these hanger-ons and sycophants.
You talk, here's a live example. So what do we like? What does Trump know what he likes? He likes people to do things for him.
Mm-hmm.
So what's they do? They go to his hotels, spend a lot of money, bring their whole entourage. In the anticipation, although it's not asked for, that something, come my way.
Scratch my back, I'll scratch
Yeah,
it.
and you know what? And they know that Trump loves that, and he does. I mean, there's no secret. He's a businessman. That's the DNA you got to have for that, So, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that's another example. They're trying to influence a decision that Donald Trump might make by, attending to his, there's probably tons of people that go to the Trump hotel just to do that.
Right, dude.
Even though he's going, you guys are a bunch of idiots. I'm not going to do anything.
Good Trump voice, by the way. But yeah, no, you're right, and that's kind of the question. Do people golf with Donald Trump, or do people golf with Barack Obama because they think he's a fun guy to hang out with, or because they think that he's I'd like to see how my golf game compares to Donald Trump's or Barack Obama's. No, they want something. There's no fun being discussed on that golf course. It's business.
Would you golf with Trump or Obama if you had the chance?
I really suck at golfing, but yeah, I probably would.
I'd golf with either one of them just to say I did it. Why not?
Oh yeah, I mean, I really think that if I golf,
I think most people would say that. Hell, it's as president of the United States. I'll spend a couple hours with him.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Even if I don't like him at all, but I'd still do it just to say that. Hey, I did spend time with the president.
Yeah. No, Yeah, I'd be the guy who is like, hey man, I'm gonna get a pass.
We would all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would actually much rather hang out with George W. Bush or Bill Clinton. I think they'd be funner people to hang with.
I think it'd be a better. It's no doubt it'd be a better party.
Right. 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 So that's for sure. So, I kind of want to. I guess I just want to chime in a little bit on the, deep state, NWO, Illuminati thing, and this is something that Ed and I were talking off air, and this is something. The way I'm going to verbalize this is something that really actually just occurred to me somewhat recently. But I feel like when you the base difference when people are talking about, oh, it's the deep state, oh, it's the Illuminati. I feel like the deep state, I'd put it as a politically correct way to say Illuminati or NWO, and I agree with that. But I also kind of feel like deep state is a secularized way to say Illuminati or NWO, because when you talk Illuminati, there's this aura of occult, perhaps.
Right.
There's this aura, perhaps, of Satanism, even. There's this aura of ancient secrets, historical knowledge, perhaps robed ceremonial figures, or it's like this dark shadows organization.
It's more secret. That's
right. Where deep state is more just the nerdy guy in the suit running the show. The guy who's really calling the shots. And is it the same thing or different? I don't know. I don't really know that it is. It's just the way one visualizes the person who is really controlling your lives or your government or your country or your, or your culture. And, so when we did, I don't remember which show it was, whether it was the Secret Society show or the Illuminati show. When we did that, we kind of were defining, when we talked about the difference between the Illuminati and the New World Order, was the Illuminati is the religion or the group or the people around it. And the NWO is something that maybe doesn't even exist yet, but that's the end game. That is what they're looking to do, is create the New World Order. Because, does the New World Order exist? Well, no, not really. I mean, at least it doesn't seem like it. Maybe there's a New World Order out there, but there definitely seems to be a lot of strife.
Yeah, we're kind of missing one thing: the New World.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's still, the New World Order kind of implies that, yeah, maybe it's not a good thing because people have lost their liberty and there's some crazy unelected official who's just holding us down with an iron boot. But it's not really there yet. No. Because we still are voting. Does our vote matter for anything? Who knows? We still are fighting wars with other people. Is it for a purpose? Maybe not. But to me, the Illuminati is the religion or the idea or the group.
It has a history.
Sure.
There's no history of the deep state.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Even though we're kind of trying to place the history on it, but the reality is it's not a historical thing, per se.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have the traditions that, say, the Illuminati or some of the other secret societies that have.
The Rosicrucians.
Yeah, they have symbols, they have rituals, they have those things. None of that will be. I don't see that being part of the deep state at all, really. So, that's the distinction. Now, the interesting thing is it's serving the same kind of function.
It certainly is. Okay, so if the Illuminati's the secretive backbone, and the NWO is the end game, I guess the deep state is the paper pushers, the guys on the phone, the guys making the deals, the guys doing it. And to me, you can you can say that the deep state and the Illuminati or the secret societies are controlling things, but I do separate the two of them. Because to me, if you're going to believe in both, then the deep state are the guys who are in the know a lot more than you and I. A lot more than even the people who are really trying to pay attention. A lot more than maybe even your typical congressman from Montana. But perhaps even they're kind of still second tier to who is secretly calling the shots, or who is really calling the shots in the Illuminati, the secret societies, this idea. And that's kind of how I look at it. The deep state are the ones who are running the show. And the question is, then, this isn't really the question we're here to answer tonight, but are they really running the show? No, that's more like the Illuminati thing. The deep state are the guys that really are definitively to try to keep it away from try to keep tonight's show away from kind of the more conspiracy-minded idea or occult-minded idea. The deep state are the guys who really do the work.
Well, they're the rational mind.
They're the CIA, the FBI. Do they always even know why they're doing what they're doing?
No,
I don't know.
And again, you nailed a good point. I think that throughout the course of history, I think, probably started back in Hoover days, they set up secret sects of the FBI, secret sects of this, just like we have the SEALs and the Rangers, there's those, but you know what? They're not named.
Sure.
And I think those people exist. And again, they may not even work for the CIA or anything more. They might have completely different aliases that they go by, but they're there.
Spies, in essence. We know that we have spies.
Yeah, and not to go down the rabbit hole too deep, but, I can easily envision a group of individuals, again, from each discipline that's out there. And again, that's the kind of, and I think it's agreed upon thing. And surprisingly, it should have been written in the Constitution, right? Mm-hmm. They tried to do the checks and balances, but people are corrupt and they'll influence the other two. So that's a little hard to act, but whatever, so who knows? And maybe, it's funny how back in Masonic times, right around the time of George Washington,
mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So, and there's in the early politics of this country, there's a big influence in Masonic beliefs.
Yeah.
And the dollar bill, right?
Sure.
Which we all carry in our wallets every day with pride.
It's everywhere, So
I just don't have enough of them.
No, nor do I. And that's, we know that there are spies out there. We know that our country and other countries have spies. We sometimes view this as a necessary evil. But as government grows, liberty must be lost. And that's, and the one thing that you would kind of ask, maybe this is coming from a small government kind of perspective or a libertarian kind of perspective, I acknowledge that. But if spies are necessary, or if these groups are necessary, why does there need to be a CIA and an FBI and an NSA and FEMA and DOD and Homeland Security and all these different groups that, if they were really working towards the same goal, wouldn't they share that information with each other? And wouldn't it be better to have one group? But they like that power. They like being able to, control their aspect of the government. And Kyle, like you pointed out, you have the private industry too.
Mm-hmm.
You have bankers. You have...
Well, you got people, we all know the names, the Koch brothers. They're in there,
mm-hmm.
Some way, form or the other. Murdoch and, both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Soros, they're in
Sure.
there. I mean, these guys are there. They have their, and sometimes I just wonder if it's just a game for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Sure.
what I mean? Look I'm just going to throw I'm
can't-
throwing my billion here to see what kind of effect it has. And they all sit around in their little room and go, damn it didn't work like we thought. All right, here's your million. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the next time it goes around, then they do, all right, we're going to let you do your thing. And then they do their thing. Same thing. It's a game. I think, these people, what else are they going to do when they have $1 billion?
Right, yeah, they can't get richer. You can say, you can always get richer. No, you really can't.
No.
I mean, when you reach the point where you can't possibly, where you and your kids and your grandkids can't possibly blow the money you have, even through terrible decisions,
Yeah.
you technically speaking can't get richer than you are. You can't
Right.
do it because, well, you're basically you've taken a monetary thing that is supposed to be finite, and you've made it infinite, in essence. So, when you go back to the old school conspiracy theory, the old school stuff, decades ago, real tinfoil hat stuff, you used to hear people saying, I remember as a kid, you kind of hear people saying stuff along the lines of, there's only 12 rich families in the world. Only 10 people or only 12 people, and they're really controlling everything. And it all kind of goes back to this. You got your Rockefellers and your, who's, on the tip of my tongue, who's the other ones they talk about a lot, the banking family who funded World War I and the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and and now some of the newer ones, the Koch brothers and George Soros and guys like this, the guys pulling the strings behind all these different things.
Murdoch.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And you got these guys, but is that the deep state? I don't know. I think it actually goes deeper than that. Because I think it's more like Kyle said, half the time, I don't think these guys really care. I think they're just throwing money around. Try this, try that. Who cares? We'll see. I think they're just kind of playing games with.
It doesn't matter. The outcomes don't matter anything at all to them. And I'll go back to, I read a little bit about Mercer. He's kind of a freak about a few things. Number one, he doesn't believe in climate warming. He's adamantly against it. And he's actually funded projects to try to prove theories of some of the things, which is absurd because it's the laws of the physics that we live here. That's not going to work. You might go to the moon or Mars or someone, but in this science here, it's not going to work. But yet yet he's created $1 billion industry, and yet he believes, he's like that jackass Kyrie Irving. Oh yeah, the Earth is flat. It's like, what? Same. It's that absurd.
Sure.
That, so these guys have these little things, but really, if you look at Mercer, what he really wants to do is he wants to control social media, and they've done it. And they get the pulse, and they gave all that information to Trump, and it helped him, know what the pulse of the, what was making people afraid.
Kyle, I have kind of a little bit different take on that. I'm not a big climate change guy. I'm not. I don't buy a lot of it. I don't know that it's not happening to some degree, but the thing is that I'm actually convinced of this is when it comes to some of these issues, some of these hot button issues that are discussed. I think they used to be the ones that used to hit on big back the 80s and 90s and even early 2000s were abortion, the death penalty. These were these used to be hot button issues. People kind of got over those to some degree. And now to me the big ones are climate change, gay marriage. Those are just two examples. And I think that to me those are smokescreens.
Yeah.
This idea between whether or not gay people can get married. What is marriage? It's just something sanctioned by the state anyway, who gives a shit. But really, live with who you want to live with. Nobody cares. Right. And if you do, why? But these to me, the two hot button issues right now that they always try to throw it back to are, well, I'll throw in a third one actually.
Black Lives Matter.
Foreign wars, terrorism. I guess that would be fourth if you count those as two. Gay marriage and climate change. I don't think these things mean a damn in the grand scheme of things. I think these are the issues that they throw out to us to confuse us, quite frankly, to get people riled up because people are very passionate about it. They're like, no, gay people have the right to...
They're passionate because on the front of climate change, there's some very proven evidence that supports it.
I think the point he's making, though, is that basically the media is just stirring up shit.
It could be.
Every time there's a new terrorist shooting, which seems to happen almost weekly, it ignites some, the whole gun law thing, it's, and everybody starts arguing it again, and it
doesn't even get anywhere.
No, it's basically meant to pit people against each other. It's like the media has all of this control, and it essentially is doing the worst possible thing with it. instead of uniting people, it's
Right,
driving
and
against
then
each
you
other.
got a master who knows how to manipulate it in Trump,
Well,
and he loves this shit. He can control it.
Is Trump the deep state?
He's not smart enough to be in the deep state.
That could be. I mean, I kind of have.
See, I told you I like Kyle.
When it comes to the idea of the deep state, I don't think that there is one big deep state. And you guys can feel free to disagree with this. I don't think there's one big deep state that's really controlling it. I think the deep state refers to this idea of several different deep states who are attempting to control. And that's what, actually, people will, right now, okay, a lot of people are for or against this idea because they're for or against Trump, and they're centering it around Trump. And I feel like to some degree, although there's some truth there, I feel like that's kind of folly, because do I believe that Barack Obama has kind of like his own little deep state that he's attempting to still control things? I actually do. Because I think the Bushes have one too.
I disagree. Again, I think, going back to my original argument, I think within the Department of Justice, there's a group, and CIA, the FBI, there's this esoteric group out there. They're always there. Mm-hmm. And everyone once you become president, that they're there. And their power. And you can't do anything about it.
You kind of refer to what they sometimes call the seventh floor gang.
Whatever. And Trump is the first one ever to say, you know what, this is bullshit. I want to influence them, and they're pushing back, saying, there are some traditions you can talk about all day long. This is one you can't. So just get in line. You're only going to be here for 4 years. We're here forever, and we have an institution to protect. And it's every president goes in, and they know it.
Well,
in
Trump
my
wasn't
opinion,
the first president to talk about it.
Well, maybe not, but
the first president to talk about it would have been JFK.
But going back to your argument, I don't think there's this big.
How that ended.
Yeah,
I don't think it's this big thing. I think it is segmented within certain areas.
Sure.
Like we said, the defense, the Homeland Security. There's experts that are always going to be there.
Sure.
And so I think the deep state is very fractured. It's not one entity, and I don't think there's this controlling thing. I think once you're within a department, what the final objectives are. You know what I mean? Where the limit on defense is. For your Homeland Security, what limit on Homeland Security you're going to go. And you're funded, again, because it's an elected position, they can put all kinds of money into it legally. And it just perpetuates from there.
Let me ask you guys a kind of a basic idea. Again, just still, even though we're well into the show now, I'm still just kind of trying to define the deep state, if you will. Does the deep state refer simply to U.S. politics or U.S. government, or does that refer to a greater world government? Because this is a different differentiation between NWO, Illuminati, secret societies, deep state, all these different things. So when someone says deep state to you, does that refer simply to U.S. politics or to world government as a whole?
I think it could be world government. I think especially when you have, like an entity like the UN, international sanctions and, things like that. I think then when you have that type of, when you divulge into something like that, then things can get, no pun intended, a little deeper than just, surface sanctions or something like that. I don't think it gets, and like I said, I don't buy into this a whole lot, but in terms of there being, a world influence, I think there certainly is, and I think the United States is at the forefront of that.
Ed, Kyle, you got a word or two?
No, yeah, I mean, again, to view it as the Illuminati being an example of a global, deep state. Where what I'm talking about be within the U.S. government, that would be a national deep state, right? So there's a distinction between the two.
But I think it basically just any level. I mean, it could refer to a foreign government. It could refer to even state level. I mean, look at some of the local politics in like Detroit, where obviously everybody in government there is pretty corrupt. Right. We have an ex-mayor who's now serving out jail time, and just how that could kind of really be an example of the deep state, maybe not on a grand scheme and
the deep city,
in the world, a world conspiracy, but there were a lot of people who were influences on that, and basically were contributors to him monetarily.
Talking about Kwame?
Yeah.
And I know Kyle kind of pushed aside this idea, but I do kind of believe that ex-presidents, if you will, and not even just ex-presidents, but ex-dignitaries,
Are you talking about
cabinet
Patrick
members.
Swayze's gang in Point Break?
I don't know.
Never seen that movie, huh?
It's been a while. I don't think I had achieved double-digit age yet the last time I saw that movie, so I definitely will not comment on Point Break. But this idea that, and like I said, I know Kyle kind of dismissed this to some degree, but I do believe that you have a lot of these ex-presidents, ex-foreign dignitaries.
I was gonna say you gotta stop talking shit about Kyle because he's back now.
Yeah. Ex-speakers of the House, whoever. These people that still have a ridiculous security clearance. They still daily receive information on world events, on affairs, things like that. You have these people who I believe in some ways do kind of set up how good they do at it or what they accomplish. Maybe it's next to nothing, but I do think that they kind of set up, in essence, their own shadow government. I think the Bush family, to some degree, maybe this isn't evil per se. I'm not trying to label it as evil, but I do believe that the Bush family, per se, does kind of have their own little shadow government that still does affect how the actual government works. And I think Barack Obama, a young man, a very brilliant man, you might dislike him, but he's a smart dude, and he has a lot of smart people around him, and he's still getting this information, this intel, daily on what is going on. And the idea that these ex-presidents, ex-dignitaries, ex-cabinet members, ex-FBI, CIA, NSA agents and leaders, the idea that they just take this information and be like, oh, that's interesting, and that they don't do anything with it, to me that's proof of many shadow governments being run, and how much you can control it because you have your own people that you control within the media.
Any guess on how many private contractors there are that have security clearance?
I know it's more than military and more than government.
847,000 people have contracted security clearances in this country right now.
Right. No, I was going to bring that up.
Almost 1 million people.
I was going to bring that up, Kyle. I didn't have the number. I'm glad you actually had the
but
number.
1 million
but I know that
people.
More people in the private sector have security clearance.
So you're making me have another thought here.
Okay.
Who's to say that the deep thought isn't some creation to say, you know what, put all the information out there?
Sure.
Right? There's your deep thought. Give it to 1 million people and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And that'll be its own checks and balances. And maybe this is some social experiment for some of these billionaires. They're going, you know what? Let's just see what's going to happen.
Yeah. I don't think they do that because I think they love the idea of knowing things that we don't. But
they have they're betting on an outcome, right?
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
It's a crazy thought, but rich people get bored.
So I guess that was, I answered it already. I answered with my opinion already, but I guess that kind of leads to just the basic, very small question is there more than one shadow government? And I would say that there is.
Well, and again, another thing that's kind of unique here too is again we're living in a time of so much transfer of information. It's unbelievable, compared in the years that we've been alive. Think how much easier it is to access information was, back even 10 years ago. It's amazing, right? And so all that information is just now people are utilizing to try to make some influence or some impact somewhere. And I think we're still at the early stages of it, and I think this could be kind of misconstrued as the deep state where you're trying to use social media to move a policy or an agenda.
Sure.
And it works. I mean, look at the advertisers. That's what they do. They're trying to suck people's attention, to get them to see their products.
Now, the question I would ask after that is, okay, there are 535 people, 536 if you count the president, that we elect on a federal level to legislate our laws, to make our laws. Well, that president shouldn't count in the way I just phrased it because he's the executive. But we had, 535 people in Congress. Throw in the governors. Now you got 585. Throw in the president, I got 586. Vice president, 587. Okay, these are our federally elected, or on that level elected. Tons more elected officials, of course, in there on the state and local levels. But those are our elected officials on the federal level. Are they running the show? I mean, are they the ones doing it? Like, why do we vote necessarily? Why exactly do we vote? Are they really the ones running the show?
Again,
lobbyists.
There needs to be a conduit. They are the conduit. They're the ones that bring it to the forefront, right? So they're bought and paid for it. I mean, everyone knows that. You know what I mean? That's why it's so absurd sometimes when you think someone's going to do this. It's like, no, they're not. Mm-hmm. They can't. Or they lose $1 million from there. You know what I mean? So these guys are all calculated politicians, and a politician to me is you're working for. That's the problem that we have now is they're working for corporations, not working for the people. And I'm not saying everybody, but. Their corporate influence is heavily skewed too much now.
The people that I refer to when I'm talking about the deep state, the people that scare me when I'm talking about the deep state, Adam a little while ago mentioned the NRA. The NRA doesn't scare me, and I know that Adam and I differ on what the NRA is, so I'm going to throw two in. I'm going to throw in two big lobbies that are on opposite sides of the political spectrum, have nothing to do with each other, but tend to be on opposite sides of the political spectrum. I'm going to throw in the NRA and Planned Parenthood. I'm just going to use those two as my examples. There's other ones that go into this, but I'm going to use those two. These aren't the ones that scare me so much, because when the NRA is lobbying for something, when Planned Parenthood is lobbying for something, at least we know where they stand. We know what they're lobbying for, and we know that they're powerful, and we know that they do backdoor deals, and we know that they do this. But the lobbies that scare me are the businesses and the individuals and the extremely rich people who are lining the pockets of our congressmen, who you kind of ask, what exactly are you trying to support here? Like, what exactly is your goal? What exactly are you trying to push? Those are the people who I'm scared about losing liberty to. These are the ones that really scare me, where I'm just like, we hear about lobbyists all the time, and we know that there's just thousands upon thousands of them for thousands upon thousands of different ideas. But when I hear about the NRA or Planned Parenthood or a climate change lobby, well, okay, they have a goal.
Lobbyists to me is a poor sign of a super strong democracy, but have no need for lobbyists.
No.
Right?
Lobbyists
to me is kind of an indication that things aren't that good right now, because we have to buy and pay our agendas forward. So that tells me either the corporations trying to do something illegal, or immoral for that matter. If you're doing the right things, you shouldn't need government influence to, do what you want to do.
So is voting just a joke?
Yes.
I mean, because I've said that in the past.
I don't know. I think
I always vote. I never don't vote. I'm big into, hey, you got to go do your civic duty. I'm one of those people that when you're in your city and there's 4 people running for 5 different
do you vote for 4?
Oh, I will go and turn in a blank ballot.
What is your philosophy? Name recognition, or just kind of the vibe you have in your head as you read through them?
My point, no, I don't vote on people that I don't know.
All right, let me digress. I have to get this idea out because it's a great idea. Okay,
I'm just saying, but just to say what I do, I've gone and voted before and turned in a blank ballot because I'm the type of person, I think it's important to vote. And I have shown up to vote before and turned in a blank ballot because I think it's important to vote. Or I've gone before and voted for one person on the city council who I know personally,
right? Who
I know is a good person, and I go and vote for them, and that's it. So I'm just that person that people say, "Why'd you vote? Who cares?" Like, well, you're right. I can't even deny that who cares logic because who cares? But I'm just type person. I go vote. I always vote.
I think at best on a local level, you actually you have a better chance at making a difference because you're just a higher percentage of the overall.
Okay, so now that we're on this voting talk, not to interrupt you, Ed, but this is kind of cool. Check this out. Guy years ago, we were in Indianapolis, talked about this idea. He goes, wouldn't it be cool if you had like a restaurant theme thing, and this is the days back when Damon's, when you had the score thing and do all that. Now tie that in today's technology with computers and everything else. And what you do is you create a restaurant, but yet you have, like in Lansing, you're going to have all the state, the local on your little key fob, and people will be able to vote on it. And you're going to see local, state, federal. You can choose other states. It's all the internet. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But then it would become a movement within itself. Right, because politicians would pay attention to it because it's the vibe, and you put it. Then from a business perspective, you franchise it, go to all the capital cities. You know what I mean? And then hopefully to get people engaged. It's kind of like get people out really, because how many times have we just admitted ourselves? You go to the voting booth, you don't know who the hell these people are, But if you're at your thing, there'll be little bios on all these people, how their voting records, because it's all there and accessible. I thought this idea was great, and just to do it, but I'm not into restaurants, so that's probably why I don't do it. But I like the concept because it's actually a focused effort, because when you're in the restaurant, there's nothing else to do. The problem with today's world, we're all distracted by a zillion things, so you need to be, right there. And it'll be so overwhelming because then you'll have, tallies of how people like bills that are out there that it might affect where you live,
Are you guys familiar at all with John W. Whitehead?
No.
He's an author. He talks a lot about deep state. And written a lot of small things, but the book he wrote about it is called Battlefield America. And the way he defines deep state, basically, is he says there are, the way he defines shadow government, is that there are two different shadow governments in the United States. And that the one is the deep state, what we're talking about here. This idea of the people who are really running the show instead of the people you elected. The people who are, sure, we elect our officials, but then these are the people that tell them what to do. So you have these elected officials, and people often wonder, they're like, oh, I elected this guy, and I voted for this guy, and he said that he was running on this, and then he didn't do it, and nothing ever changes. Basically, the base idea, nothing ever changes. You elect a Republican, you elect a Democrat. It doesn't matter. Really, at the end of the day, it's the same masters telling them what to do. That's the deep state, in essence. But the second shadow government he talks about is the COG. The COG, they often call it, or the continuity of government. Is what this stands for. And this is what he says is what we truly have to fear in the future. Because the deep state is what is running the government. The COG are those who are appointed to run the government if and when the emergency happens. If and when this all hits the fan and something bad happens, the nuke goes off, or the asteroid hits.
You're kind of suggesting a coup.
Right. This idea that there are people in place, and this kind of gets into like the FEMA thing a little bit. There are people in place who, when something goes wrong, these are the people who are going to control us. That liberty will be thrown away. That these are the people who are going to jump in. And truth be told, these things are set. This is set up. These plans and counter plans are set up to when something bad happens, these are the people who are vying for control over how martial law, if you want to use that term, will be instituted. And those are the two big differentiators that he uses when defining the shadow government or the deep state. In essence, I don't want to. I'm not going to go off his ideas all night, but that's basically kind of his idea. And this isn't a brand new book. It's not old, but it's not a brand new book. So this is something that he's been kind of kicking around for a while. So that kind of goes back to. I didn't mean to sidetrack our last questions. Are elections useless? Are the elections we do? Are they worth a damn?
No, not really.
No, again, it's. Yeah, I think we all get. Yeah, in the end, Democrat and Republican, in our Congress, they're not that much far apart.
No.
Yeah, they really aren't. And, at the end of the day and what they do and the decisions they're making. And, yeah, so, the vote counts to some degree, but in the end, no. I think it's more of a facade, and, unless you are an active participant in it, how do you know? I mean, we vote, but yet that's it. But, when's the last time we volunteered for our government to understand things? I don't know. I wouldn't do it if I'm getting paid, but.
Do you know a question that I often ask? And this is sidetracking a little bit, but a question I often ask is, people love to say, the conspiracy theorists love to say it, the non-conspiracy theorists love to say it, but they always say, you got to get involved, right? You got to get involved in your government. You got to take it back. You got to get involved in the lower levels and the grassroots and really take control of this and make sure this kind of stuff isn't happening. But the question I kind of ask on occasion is, should we have to do that?
No.
Shouldn't one be able to pay very little attention and still retain their liberty? Should still retain their rights? Still retain the right or the desire for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Paying attention is great. I love to pay attention. I volunteer on campaigns. I love politics and I love all the inner workings. I love to volunteer on campaigns and talk to these people.
Well, I think that's
get involved.
That's
I love
being engaged.
Yeah, it is being engaged.
Yeah.
But my point is, I am engaged because I want to be, because I enjoy it, because I like it. But should you have to? I feel like you shouldn't have to.
Some countries, you shouldn't have to. Some countries, like I think Switzerland, everyone has to go through the military.
Sure,
all males.
They do.
And
Israel as well.
And I'm sure there's some female thing that they do, similar civic duty thing.
In Israel, all people do.
Yeah, and so
in Switzerland, I believe it's just the males at least.
What's interesting about that, Israel has one of the best militaries in the world. Is that a coincidence, or is it because they have high quality caliber people in it? Because you're getting the whole population.
Sure. My point is though, Israel and Switzerland are cool countries. I dig them both. Yeah. But the thing I love about the United States isn't that we're perfect. It's that we're supposed to be free. We're supposed to have liberty. People often say we're a democracy. We're not a democracy. We're not a democracy. We have democratic ideals, but liberty is so much more important than democracy. I mean, as the founding fathers used to say, democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Liberty is a well-informed, well-armed sheep contesting the vote. Your liberty is supposed to trump your democracy. I mean, if 55% of a population votes to take the rights away from the other 45%, that's not good democracy. Liberty and rights are much more important than that. And that's what government and the Constitution, and elected officials for that matter, are supposed to guarantee. They're not supposed to be elected to do what's right, necessarily, or to do what they want, or what they think is right, or even for them to do what their constituents say. They're actually elected to uphold the Constitution, to protect not just the 59% of people that voted for him, but the other 41% as well.
Right.
That is what government is supposed to be.
The real problem we've had the last several cycles is the polarization is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. We're so opposed to each other that there's no compromise.
You're right.
And you talk about even when you have Barbara Bush making a comment about government, she goes, "Well, at least George could talk to Newt,
Mm-hmm.
They could compromise, and Bill Clinton and Newt could talk to each other and come to an agreement."
Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill.
Yeah, and so there was compromise. So what changed? The Tea Party, is to blame, I guess, in this regard. They came in and fractured it. You know what I mean?
I definitely don't want to put that on the Tea Party.
Well, they put a wedge there.
Do you know who I put it on? Honestly,
who's that?
The deep state. I put it on this idea that there are people out there pulling the strings.
maybe.
There are people out there.
Good point.
Putting us against each other.
But the point being is...
They control the biggest tool, the media.
Yeah.
Right. In the media, you're right. You guys nailed it. I can't disagree with it. I think it's... But you realize the good of compromise. You know, we had some good economies when there was some compromise.
I heard a Trump supporter, and I know that not one person in this room voted for Donald Trump, by the way. You know, just so people out there listening know that.
Except for you.
I did not vote for Donald Trump. You know this.
Do
not say that
Hey, Adam,
live on it.
Adam, I think that was the empty ballot he's talking about.
I did worse than an empty ballot. I voted for Gary Johnson, which is the exact same thing as turning in an empty ballot, as we can see by Gary Johnson and the Libertarian Party's numbers.
Which on that note, I didn't vote, but I almost went and voted for Trump.
No, and you have said that in the past. I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm not saying this to badmouth Donald Trump. In fact, the reason I was prefacing my statements with it is because this is going to be somewhat of a pro-Trump statement. So I'm just telling the people listening that not one person in this room actually did vote for Donald Trump. But I heard a Trump supporter making a point, and basically, in essence, what he was saying is that right now in this country, what you're seeing happening is a soft coup d'etat. In essence, the people of the United States of America have duly elected Donald Trump to be their president. He is our president. Whether you want, he's not my president. Actually, guess what? He is.
Just like Obama was our president.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't vote for Barack Obama either time, but for 8 years he was my president. That is the absolute truth. You cannot deny it. And Donald Trump is our president now. So in essence, what you have is you have the people of America have duly elected Donald Trump to be the president of the United States, and we have 200 to 300 media executives who have decided we are going to destroy this man's presidency. Do they have good reason? Maybe they do. That isn't the point. That actually is not the point here. The point is that we have people in the media and in the government who are doing a soft coup to overthrow this person.
So you're saying all the media execs are the deep state?
Well, not necessarily, but they are committing.
They're the tool.
A coup for in this particular thing. Them and other people in government who are in essence blockading. You know, they just want Trump to fail so they can.
He doesn't need any help.
Well, perhaps not. Perhaps not. If that's the case, then
it is. I don't buy that. I actually don't buy that at all. That you're led to believe that people have never been more polarized, and maybe that's actually true. That people are so completely polarized nowadays. However, between the two major parties, they've never been less polarized as far as how apart they are. Like, they've just gotten closer and closer over the years.
So true.
So it's the opposite of what it actually should be. And the reason is because of the nonstop barrage by the media. A lot of people don't like Donald Trump. Most of them don't even have good reason for disliking him. They're just parroting what they've seen on TV.
Or heard out of his mouth.
No, he doesn't. It's true. Trump does not... He doesn't speak
himself
well. No, he does not help himself at all.
Let's not go down that path. Let's just say that Adam and I probably wouldn't say many good things.
Like I said,
but I think this is. But part of the reason this is happening, though, is because of what Josh said. Because of the media. I mean, if you
don't blame my dislike of the media. If he was an asshole long before the media came out.
Well, where did you see him being an asshole?
Twitter.
If the media was doing the exact opposite. If the entire crowd was saying, "Oh, we love Donald Trump," people wouldn't have really strong opinions against him like they do. It's very easy to go with the crowd.
Yeah,
he just doesn't know how. Whatever, he's on his own path, and I don't. What turned me up to answer your question, Josh? The 2010 roast, Seth Meyers, Obama, that thing. I don't know. You probably saw it in the media, and it's fun, laugh, right? Sure. Event. And everyone, I mean, Obama got just lambasted. I mean, everyone tore him up.
That's something that's been happening for decades, though, these roasts.
Exactly.
But
so Seth Meyers...
But Kyle, you can't compare the two. You can't, because the reason you can't compare Donald Trump being roasted by the media is because the media truly hates him.
I'm not even...
No. So let me finish my argument. So during that whole thing... Seth Meyers, again, he's not part of the media in this case, really. He just roasted him hard, and Donald Trump just sat there with a scowl on his face, couldn't smile, couldn't crack a joke, thought this was a personal attack on him, and that's how he viewed it. Look at the tape subsequent of it. You know, they hate each other because of it. And he couldn't, no sense of humor. Now, that's not the kind of person I kind of want in the White House. I don't want that.
Well,
you can't take a joke. You got to be number one. That kind of bullshit.
I understand
but the problem is Seth Meyers
There's no
isn't funny.
point in the White House.
I understand that Donald Trump can be a dope. I don't particularly like him either. But the reason you don't like him, Kyle, so what you have in your power is you don't have to vote for him. And perhaps he will then lose re-election. There's a good chance he will lose re-election. But I don't think there are more people out there who hate Donald Trump than there are people that hated Barack Obama. I don't necessarily
you get that
even
perception.
I don't necessarily. You do definitely get that perception from the media.
No.
I also don't necessarily think that more people hated Trump or hated Obama than. I'll switch my wording now to dislike than to dislike George W. Bush. I think there's people out there that did not vote for these people, didn't like them, and were trying to weather the storm. But I feel a different tone with Donald Trump, and that tone being that we want him out. We want him out not in 4 years when we elect somebody else. We want him out before those 4 years are up.
Well,
I could be wrong about that.
Donald Trump can't be controlled, right? It's not in his DNA.
That's not a bad thing necessarily.
But that's exactly what we didn't want, though.
I mean, that's why people
because
voted
Donald
for
Trump wants to take over the world. It's not just this. He wants to be the king.
I think this right here is a good example of just how effective the media is and how much control
and it
they
doesn't
have
have to do
and
anything
how
in the media.
divisive they are.
Look at what he does.
No,
What he says.
No, Kyle, I totally agree with you, Kyle.
I mean, I'm not basing this off any media
yeah.
report. Well, maybe the media, put his voice in. I grabbed that pussy, right? That's the kind of person. Right. It was words out of his mouth. I don't think they doctored it.
We have definitely established. Okay,
well, you know what I'm saying. So that moral character, to me, that's important for a president to have some dignity.
None of them have
moral character. Come on.
Okay,
I don't think Obama did what he did. He was married, divorced 3 times, and a pussy grabber. You don't hear that words out of Obama.
Okay, all right, all right.
Well, I'm just saying.
No, we've made a lot of points about this. I think everyone here has made good points about this stuff. We'll let the people listening decide. Yeah. We are here to cover the deep state, though, so let's jump back to that. We definitely made some good points, though, and
it's important because right now, because of the media, this is where the rhetoric of the deep state is coming up. And is it true or not? I really don't. I think these institutions have been in place for a long time already,
right?
And they're just being activated where before they didn't really have to, because let's say they're on check, and why? Because Trump doesn't want to have a relationship with them. I guess I don't know.
Okay, and that's we've established why Trump is bad or why Trump is potentially good. I mean, we have established that, but we are off topic. So let's move
Are we
back.
off topic? Or are you trying to move it away from the topic that's important,
Josh? We're not here to talk. No, the deep issue for the evening is not why Donald Trump is bad.
It relates.
It's relative because the deep state became more popular.
It's relative, and we've established the relativity.
Right,
but now let's move on to the topic at hand. Because really, this isn't supposed to be a Trump bash. We've done plenty of Trump bashing. Again, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I don't particularly like him as president. So this is not. I'm not trying to stick up for Donald Trump here. I really am not.
No, I think your point was kind of that. Basically, the media is kind of a tool for the deep state, bringing it back to that of just how in control they are.
I'm not going to. And I was
that even though there may be legitimate reasons for not liking Donald Trump, maybe the two of you know all of them. Most people don't. The reason they don't like Trump is because they've been told by the media he's a horrible person, regardless of what he may or may not have actually done.
Well, the media plays a role. There's no question, and
a huge role.
Yeah, it's there, and so we could all sit here and argue that the media is part of the deep state because they're basically trying to push their agenda.
The media is certainly part
right,
of the
and they're
deep
trying to deceive, just like everybody.
They
right?
don't have your best interests in.
No, they could care less about our best interests. I mean, much like our government right now.
And what they report isn't even remotely close to what is happening.
No, it never is. I mean, have you guys ever had a local story and had the news covered after the fact, and how far skewed it was? Most people, they dramatize it. They make it more than even usually. No, they just don't report it as from your perception. And that's true. That shit happens. But in the end, I think the deep state is. I think it's really just a check and balance.
Let me shift this towards something that predates Obama. So obviously it predates Trump. We're talking about deep state. We're talking about, to me, deep state involves a lot of loss of liberty. That's why the Illuminati or the NWO or the deep state or a shadow government, that's why these things scare me, because it revolves around a loss of liberty. Let's talk about the Patriot Act. I mean, really, you have the Patriot Act, you have the NDAA, that basically, in essence, the NDAA says that the President of the United States can label anyone as an extremist. The Patriot Act gives huge amounts of power to the government, none of which are concerned with our liberty. They're concerned with our security. And as Ben Franklin said, any person who gives up liberty in the name of security deserves neither liberty nor security. So these are the issues that, to me, are very taxing. Are we militarizing the police in this country too much?
Yes.
And are the militarized police... I mean, this is something that anti-Trump people, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, they really should be able to get behind here. Are the militarized police the army of the deep state?
Yes.
Because I would say they are. I mean, we are... Maybe you can make the argument that we aren't moving towards a police state, but we are certainly set up to become a police state. Not 10 years from now, not 20 years from now, not 80 years from now, tomorrow. We are set up to be a police state. The police are militarized. They have...
Yeah, but so are most neighborhoods.
Not in that way. No, not in that way.
You think my couple of handguns are going to take
I
out...
do.
No,
Police,
I'll be a fly.
Police organizations have tanks. Police organizations
Name one
have
in Michigan. I don't even know.
several in Michigan.
Which
Detroit
ones?
does, for sure.
Detroit has tanks.
Yeah.
I'm
Supplied
going to look it up.
by Homeland Security. The state police of Michigan certainly has these things.
Yeah, they probably do.
They have RVs. They have tanks. They have what the media loves to refer to as assault rifles. I know quite a bit about guns. I don't actually know what an assault rifle is necessarily. An assault rifle is something that somebody else wants banned.
Yeah,
I don't know,
pretty much.
any rifle can be used to assault people, and it can also be used to not assault people. So I always love to ask people when they say the words assault rifle what exactly that is, and people don't.
It's a way to invite more government.
The police have the automatic weapons. Every police organization, even your small time ones, have automatic weapons, which are illegal to us. They shouldn't be if anyone's ever read.
Do you really think that if someone said go, that these things would become deployed like that?
Perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. Actually.
Yes, because they're going to be ushered in as essentially the saviors. People are going to be welcoming them.
And if there are police officers who would say, no, I won't do it, then God bless those people. That's awesome.
To be clear, though, I mean, we're not talking every single, local jurisdiction having battalions of tanks.
No, but they definitely have automatic weapons.
They have automatic weapons, but...
Do you?
Do I have what?
Automatic weapons? I mean, because I would hope you'd answer no. Even
no, but I know. But
I will say highly illegal for you.
I will say that I think police has become too militarized. I definitely agree with you guys on that point. But when you were saying tanks, I don't want it to sound like like police stations,
Like Red Dawn.
have like exactly like battalions of tanks.
Unless you
They
live
have
in...
a tank. How many tanks do you have?
Yeah, they have a tank.
Well, that's how many do you need?
Unless you live in some podunk town where there's like 12 people with one police officer, you know, your local police department is well more armed than your
Yes.
average person,
Yeah.
if not
But
every person.
because it's a public institution, it has to be disclosed. Is it not? Maybe not on major public records, but it's still got to be public.
I don't know what they have to disclose.
I'm just curious.
The Homeland.
I have someone who lives in a township. I'm going to ask her.
I mean, if Homeland Security gives funding for this stuff, if they're not spending it on that, then they are wrong. They're in the wrong because Homeland Security provides funding for this.
Right.
So if they spent it on,
Donut Fridays.
right, then they're they're in gross misconduct of what it was allocated for. Allocated for.
But I think to your point, you're essentially saying we've given up our liberties for supposed freedom, which is essentially could be used against us to actually restrict that freedom.
Right, and are we simply being monitored at all times now?
Yes. Oh, it's been known for years.
Because the Echelon program, designated by the NSA, basically is monitoring every email and every bit of digital correspondence that we send. Are they monitoring it that they've listened to everyone? Well, obviously they don't have the manpower for that, but they can.
I think
But they also have algorithms
Let's just put it
that'll
this way,
weed out quite a bit of
Josh,
it.
if they wanted to, sweat you out, they could.
They
easily.
can. And that's my point.
Any
Yeah.
of us.
No, I mean, that is my point.
That's
exactly.
more of a governmental control thing. That's a government project that has all that access.
But it's not being controlled by our elected officials.
Well, it's
so...
probably contracted out to some firm.
Right. So that is
and
that's deep state.
That is deep state.
That is deep
Yeah.
state. And that,
Yeah, I think it's called. Never mind. I was going to say something that's inappropriate.
No, and that is I mean, that just raises the question: do we, the people, have any real power? And this is supposed to be a government by the people and for the people, and do we have any real power?
Well, I mean, compared to other countries that I've been to, absolutely, this is the best place in the world to live.
Sure,
I
agree with that.
You can. Most people are civil, at all times.
It didn't become the best place in the world to live by none of us questioning it.
Yeah.
No,
And
I mean, all that's important, and again, we're kind of.
Is the best good enough?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. The fact that we're the best, does that... Okay.
Some very progressive thinking from you, Ed. I like it.
Well, but it's trending towards not being the best.
I mean, exactly. This country is the best one in the world, but is this country the best it's ever been?
No.
That's eye in the beholder. To some people, yes. To some people, no.
But even if it is, why is it? It isn't because our loss of liberty that makes us better.
No,
it's because time.
It's
has,
your act.
Yeah, it would be because of technological advances that living today versus living 100 years ago is automatically
But
better
at the same
just by
time,
existing.
relatively speaking, we're all free to do pretty much whatever we want. There's laws. We know what they are. We stay away from it, right?
Mhm.
But again, we're not. I don't feel repressed. Who does? Nobody.
I do.
I
I
would
do.
disagree.
You feel repressed in the life that you live every day.
Well,
You feel like Big Brother's over around the corner?
Look at one
and-
of our most fundamental liberties, the freedom of speech.
Yes, I do actually. I actually, to be honest with you, Kyle, I actually do not feel like saying so. Why on air?
Right.
But yes, I do.
Okay. Interesting.
I would actually be happy to give you an example off air.
All right. Fine.
But and there's very few things that I will not say
Right.
on air. Really, I'm on air all the time.
And kind
But-
of tying into, I think what you're saying is, so I think one of the most fundamental liberties we have is freedom of speech, and we have such this aura of political correctness that we've kind of lost it. You actually don't have the freedom of speech like we like to tell that we have.
The freedom of speech is still there. You can publish what you want.
No, but there are horrible repercussions for saying
Again,
certain
you still have
things.
the right to publish it.
Well,
Not to say that you won't pay for it, but you have the right to
But
publish
is that
it.
really the freedom of speech?
Yeah, for the most. I mean,
Well,
for most things, there's no
in
restrictions.
all time. I mean,
I'm talking. If you, let's talk about other countries where if you put anything negative to the government, it
But
does
that's
not get
but
published.
we're not holding ourselves to their
That's
standard.
what we don't have, thank God.
No,
and,
I mean, I'm gonna put myself somewhere in the middle of you guys right now, because even back in 1789, when they're talking the Bill of Rights, having freedom of speech does not mean that there are not consequences for what you say. There shouldn't be legal consequences.
No, I agree with that. It's more of you can say something potentially completely true and valid and have extremely negative repercussions because of the culture that's essentially been built around it.
Yeah, so that raises my next question, or leads to my next question. You know, a common phrase that I used to hear all the time when I was a kid was, "Hey, it's a free country." You don't hear that as much anymore. And is liberty a myth? I mean, the fact that we're a free country, or supposed to be a free country, is that even true anymore?
No.
Go living in a foreign country and then come back and tell me.
I'm not saying they're free either. We know the foreign countries aren't free. No. Hey, there's some out there that are actually.
I would argue you could live in China and think that you have more freedom than you did here, and yet it's socialist.
But you're using other countries as kind of the standard. What about like what we've had as the standard? You can't keep saying, well, there's worse, because that's how things keep getting
there are
worse.
certainly worse. There are definitely places.
There are places.
Any era of time. I don't know where you guys are going with this. I mean, are you guys going back to some Glory Day event in America? Because
not necessarily.
You could argue any generation had their shitty and there's good times from what we've recorded on forward, right?
What was different in the past was a philosophy driving towards. There was no point in American history where America was perfect. There was never this point, ever, ever, ever. Not even close. But they were based on ideals that were driving us towards life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. They were driving us towards ideals where we would be more free. Where everybody would be more free. Where everybody would be able to not live a perfect life, but live the life they wanted to live. That I think is where it's different. One thing that I like to point to, aside from domestic surveillance and the Patriot Act and all these things, is look at our court system.
Yeah.
I mean, our court system definitely does not give freedom to the people, especially to downtrodden people, especially to people that don't have a lot of money to work with. This is an example to me that the United States is worse than a lot of other countries, where your freedom can be taken away by committing a crime. But that's normal. That statement in and of itself is normal. But what's happened is when you legislate so much to a point where many of the normal things people do on a daily basis are now illegal. When you outlaw regular things, you make regular people outlaws.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is what our court system has done. And you have so many people, especially in poorer areas and downtrodden areas, that are put on not necessarily parole, not somebody that's committed a felony and done time and is then released from jail, because parole is the idea that you're in lieu of jail, right? I mean, that's the idea of parole. I very much oppose parole, actually, the idea of parole. But that is definitely a different topic for a different day. But parole is the idea, in theory, that you are doing this in lieu of jail. That you are technically still in jail. So that's why you don't have your liberty, because, well, hey, you could be back in the slammer, or we could let you try to work at McDonald's. What would you rather do? And I guess people say, well, I guess I'll go work at McDonald's. Well, you served a 20-year sentence. You have a 20-year sentence, and we're letting you out after 12 years. So, okay, that's parole. But with probation, you're in essence, essentially, leveling people with those same parole ideas for something very minor. For what is probably a victimless crime. Got caught with a bag of weed. You got, you committed some misdemeanor, and now in essence, your liberty has been taken from you. Because when you're on probation, that's not in lieu of jail. And if it is in lieu of jail, what you're saying is that any person that gets popped with a bag of weed should be in prison for 2 years. or could be in prison for 2 years. Now, justice dictates not that no one is punished for their wrongdoing, but that the punishment should fit the crime. And probation, when looked at the same way as parole, which it is in many big cities around this country, that is a huge, huge infringement of liberty. You know, I mean, when you have people on probation for a year or 18 months because their dog barked too loud and the neighbors complained, this is a gross violation of our liberties. But so many people in our country, and this goes into the polarization of our country, this goes into people no longer wanting freedom, wanting liberty.
A lot of it, Josh, it originates from apathy. People just don't give a shit to what the laws that are being passed. They don't see them. That's why I like the restaurant idea. Yeah. Throw these laws out there. Let people vote on them and see how ridiculous some of this stuff is. You know? I went to court for jury duty. I was so pissed off that I wasted my day to go to jury duty over a land dispute, over a property line. I'm going, I cannot believe that our government is wasting this kind of money over something that, to me, you could sit down with an arbitrator and figure this out. My God, why are you wasting taxpayer dollars?
Right.
Shame on the court system for allowing that to happen.
Right.
You know?
And especially to me.
So I agree with you. I think there needs to be some rationalization put into it.
And I feel like a big part of it is that people have, whether it's not being educated properly in our school systems, whether it's people not understanding what our system is all about. This is what I was talking about when I said that liberty is much more important than democracy. Because nowadays, and this didn't used to be the case in the United States of America, nowadays, when somebody doesn't like something, they want it legislated against. And that's how our Congress views it. And that has to do with lobbyists. And that has to do with special interests, unelected people, i.e. deep state.
So, Josh, are you advocating a deep state against that?
No, I'm simply advocating that people mind their own business and that people have freedoms above all.
I went golf one time by myself and I met this guy, an old teacher, golf teacher. He gave me some advice that always stuck with me, and basically goes, I'm telling you, the world would be an easier place if people just knew their place and kind of stuck into what they know. He goes, people, when they start to get out of their zone, that's when bad things happen. He goes, if people knew their place, the world would be a happier place.
I kind of see that, know. But, something that I've come to believe I've said this on more than one occasion. I probably said it on this show before. But nowadays, our government, even our elected officials, aside from the deep state, aside from the special interests that are pushing this stuff, the first question it seems that they ask when somebody doesn't like something, somebody doesn't like anything, it doesn't matter. Somebody doesn't like something that somebody else is doing. The only question they ask is, we don't like this. Should we tax it or ban it? Should we tax it or should we legislate? How should we legislate this particular thing? And it never seems to cross anybody's mind that maybe somebody has the right to do that, whether you like it or not. Well, maybe they simply have that liberty. Maybe you can simply dislike it and not have it legislated against. Maybe you could simply dislike something that somebody does. Maybe you don't have to like somebody's religion. Maybe you don't have to like somebody's point of view. Maybe you don't have to like who somebody marries. Maybe you don't have to like what somebody puts in their own body inside their own home. Maybe you don't have to like that stuff, but maybe you could just mind your own business.
But how do you solve these problems without the government?
Exactly, and that's the point. That is the point, is that the government, especially these unelected people who are running it, truly believe that we can't do this without them. That they are either... I think that back when things weren't so bad, I think a lot of the statist people... I can't believe I went through this entire thing, Adam, without using the word statist. Can you believe it? But that a lot of these statist-type people viewed government as a necessary evil. I don't think they view it as a necessary evil anymore. I think they view it as just simply necessary. Yeah. And this is where I run into it. One more stat I wanted to throw out there, because we were talking, we got off topic on it, and we don't have to dwell on it. But when we're talking about the police, militarization of the police, funds being used, 80,000 SWAT team raids are committed on innocent, unconvicted people in the United States every single year. $4 million has been allocated to police departments, with another 1.3 million on its way. So really 5.3 million has been allocated for the purchase of drones for domestic use only. This isn't spying on terrorists in Iraq or Syria. This isn't spying on ISIS. This isn't blowing up a camp so we don't have to put a soldier's life in risk, in peril. This is drones to spy on American people.
Okay, I already know the conduit. Ready?
Sure.
Food stores. There's one out there right now. I'm not sure who's doing it, but they're actually, going to deliver goods and services to you via drone. Mm-hmm. So you just need to have a little landing pad so they could drop off the goods, and you could have this all fenced in. The drone could come in, drop it off, fly away. No one's going to touch it, right?
That's cute. That's not the police doing that, though.
Who's to say you can't put devices in those things, right? Just like
to spy on people?
Just like your cell phones. I mean, cell phones are a good way to control.
Oh no, we all carry this thing around with us every day. Even people like me and Ed who complain about the government spying on us. We all carry around this thing in our pocket every day that just lets whoever wants spy on us. So it is. I'm not living exactly everything I preach here. Who is? I have a cell phone. But this kind of then...
Status pig.
Yeah. Can you believe what the deep state did to me?
I can't believe it.
Phone. But how else am I going to play Galaxy of Heroes? To me, this just leads into endless wars, endless cash.
Well, that's why you got to make the strife to cause the wars.
Right. And you guys know that I'm a very small government. I'm a very libertarian kind of guy. But think of all the social programs that people are constantly complaining about. Even some of Bernie Sanders' loony stuff could easily be funded if we weren't fighting endless wars.
No, that's...
truth be told, if we hadn't been fighting these basically endless wars in the Middle East, for instance, over the last 10 years, you probably could have been given that crazy free education that Bernie Sanders was talking about. You could have been given... Everybody could be on welfare. You could be giving... There's so much money
as much as I don't agree with the socialists, they do have a point. The biggest thing we spend money on is military.
Yeah.
And we don't need nearly as much as we have. It's...
I agree with you guys.
Did I miss something?
I don't... Yeah,
we're coming together.
Oh. I don't think we should give everybody welfare and implement these social programs, but I'm fine with cutting the spending.
Right, yeah. I want to cut all of these things. But, Kyle, you stepped out for a minute. But basically what we were talking about is, endless wars and endless cash here.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's all... That I do believe is planned.
Right. Yeah. And that's what Ed and I are saying, is that although Ed and I are very small government people, we're very libertarian-minded people, all these crazy social programs that we preach against, all the goofy stuff that Bernie Sanders says and that Jill Stein says, you could actually pay for all of it without constant, endless wars going on.
Oh, you could.
Without constant... Personally, that would be a terrible waste of money, too. But you could... Here's a crazy...
You know what's sad? We cannot...
You could not tax us so much. That's a crazy one. Maybe we could...
Can you imagine if we...
Maybe I could spend it on my kids.
How do you think life would be different if we educated everybody or provided it as free? What do you think? What do you think the differences would be?
Educate themselves. And
what do you think the differences would be?
Tax them to death.
Oh, I don't want that. I think it'd be terrible. I mean, and so now the government's running the education?
Yeah.
No.
So people are so dumb they can't teach themselves?
No,
No, just to go through the formality of education, to have classes and get a degree and all that good stuff.
But I think we've proven that that has a very poor outcome.
I mean, when you make everybody go to grade school, it makes grade school useless. When you make everybody go to high school, you made everybody go to grade school,
it drives down the median of where education starts. That's true.
Sure. When you made everybody go to grade school, then it made it so you had to go to high school to be anything. When you made everybody go to high school, it made it so you had to go to college. Now you're making everybody go to college, and have you guys been to a college class lately? They're worthless. Yep. College is worthless. Trust me, I've been through a whole bunch of it. Yeah. Some of the dumbest people I ever met, I met in grad school. Could you say that in 1965? Could you say I met all these dumb people in grad school in 1965?
Wasn't there? Don't know, but yeah.
No way. I mean, there's no way. It was those people were brilliant. Those people were working so hard.
Well, I think life had a lot less distractions back then, though, too. But I'm telling you, we all underestimate. We're gonna have to put that in the deep issue box. How much the internet is impacting our lives in more ways than we can even think of.
Sure.
And it's funny because I probably told this story before, but I read a book one time about philosophy of technology. How does technology drive? What is it? You end up in a virtual reality world. Mm-hmm. Voila. Yeah. Take away here. My perception of virtual reality is, I could do this and that and the other. But the reality is every time I log on to do my email, I'm in a virtual world. So I spend a good majority of my job every day in a virtual world, because I'm answering electronic, messages. Which is kind of crazy when you strip it all away, but
sure. We
are moving in that direction. So sooner or later, I mean, where it ends is you plug in. That's why all these gamers are going to be so good. They'll know how to navigate, in these worlds. I have good hope for my son. He's good at video
games. Kyle's son is very good at video games. I've witnessed this. I've played with him. As we kind of work towards wrapping this up, I kind of want to present kind of a few theories here, if you will. A couple of things I've said that I've just kind of thought about when looking through the idea of the deep state. Whether it's... I feel like there's actually two different deep states to cover, and I think we've already done this. But there is the legitimate deep state where no conspiracy needed. We know that there are unelected officials who have a hell of a lot more power than that guy you elected to city council or to mayor of your hometown or even to Congress. We know that those people are out there. So if you want to just say that is the deep state, well, right there, boom, you got it. That is the deep state in essence. So it does exist. But if you want to go deeper into the deep state, which we've done, the nefarious aspects, the part where they're possibly or potentially working against us or working towards really removing our liberty or some other agenda. But one thing I came to think of over the last week, because Adam and I do this show every week together. Not Deep Issues, but we do our show every week. And Adam, I don't know if you recall this or not, but it was right after the show where we're talking about some stuff on air, some political stuff on air, and you kind of half-jokingly asked, you were like, hey, man, the Civil War's coming, the revolution's coming, which side you on?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I started thinking about that, and I know you were just kind of half-kidding, and we were joking about it, but just the way the media talks about this stuff, or the way, and when I say the media, I mean people on there. I'm not trying to criticize the media when I say this particular thing. I've done plenty of media criticism today. But the question that rose from that for me is, because when Adam asked that, I thought, God, I don't know. Like, I'm totally ready to be part of a revolution and to change something, but the two sides that they're showing me, I'm not on either of those sides.
It's a Hobson's choice.
Yeah, I mean, so
Morton's work.
Is the deep state or some other greater power, are they attempting to dictate the two sides of an inevitable and upcoming civil war?
Yeah.
Are they trying to tell us what the two sides have to be so they can
Hegelian
control
dialectic.
Their power when it all comes to a close? And I feel like that's going on. I feel like on you watch the news or you read something or you listen to people talk, that people agree, hey, civil war is coming in the United States. Whether they say it with the utmost dire tone in their voice or whether they say it half kiddingly. But people are talking about this, and to me, they're making it sound like you have to be... To me, the way I would put it, to oversimplify it, would be they're making you choose, do you want to be a fascist or a socialist? And I don't want to be either. You know, and I feel like there isn't a side to this civil war, this potential, possibly fake civil war that I want to be on.
Sure there is. Opting out.
Well, yeah, but, you know, I mean, that kind of goes back to, you guys know I'm a big Second Amendment guy. But a lot of people, what is the thing that every big-time gun owner, big-time Second Amendment person, what is the thing they say every time you say, hey, they're going to come take your guns? Say, oh,
We have a right to a well-armed militia.
Well, right, but what do they say? They say,
pry from my cold dead hands.
Pry them from my cold dead hand. Okay, you know what? I'm on board with you. They'll have to pry mine from my cold dead hands too. But is that really the end game you prefer? Because in that scenario where they're prying,
you will have cold dead hands.
You are dead. You are dead in that scenario. So, is that what you want? I'd rather prevent someone having to pry the gun from your cold dead hands, or definitely from my cold dead hands. That is not what I want. That is not.
They might not even pry it. They might just throw you in a body bag.
Well, right.
Gun and all.
So that leads me
right off a bunch of these
to my bigger theory. My bigger theory, and this goes back to the deep state, and I'm trying to kind of culminate all this and wrap it up. But I want to put the Republicans and Democrats center stage. Because that's kind of what all of this goes to. It all comes to, that's where the polarization, the divide is. The Republicans and the Democrats, to some degree. I think most
artificial, but yes.
Yeah, people love to tell you that, oh, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but we all, talk to somebody for 10 minutes and you can kind of tell which way they lean. No evil there, but... And so I've kind of am starting to develop this theory on the deep state, Republicans and Democrats, and this goes much deeper because this takes me into Illuminati territory here, for sure. And this links the deep state as nothing more than the paper pushers for the Illuminati, if you will. Because in my mind, that is kind of how I view it. But are the Republicans and the Democrats in the United States, are they simply the cover show for the deep state?
Yeah.
Are they simply... I mean, I don't know that isn't people out there running for office who really do just kind of believe that, no, I'm a Republican because I think people should be able to own guns and I'm oppose abortion. Or I'm a Democrat. Yeah, I'm a Democrat because I believe in gay marriage and I think that medicine should be social. I believe that medicine
and maybe,
should be...
maybe I was wrong earlier. Maybe this was the intention of the Constitution when it was, enacted, to have this legislative branch, the three branches, right? It's a check and balance.
Sure.
So in essence, it was programmed in from the beginning, right?
Well,
I mean, right, to protect the institution of the United States.
Well, I mean, we've always been a two-party system. Wasn't always Republicans, Democrats, but we've always.
It's mostly been a two-party, with the Whigs and all that. Yeah.
Well, but every one of those two parties, in essence, replaces another one. There's still people that
So
hang on.
I wanted to jump off of your earlier comment, about it seems like we're always fighting this something, right? Mm-hmm. What's the duality of nature, right? Alpha, Omega, good versus evil.
Sure, but
and right now it seems like the media, I agree with you, is portraying this as a battle between the good and the evil, right? From a moral perspective alone. And yeah, they're promoting this, and you're right. Why is the question? Well, what is the end game there?
Something that Ed pointed out earlier is, what is the real big difference nowadays between a Republican
There's
and a
not
Democrat?
much.
I mean, they both have progressives within their own party. They both have some people who are a little bit smaller. Yeah, I mean, so it doesn't matter. So
what difference is the company who's got them there?
Right, right. So I kind of feel like something we talked about in our Illuminati show, or actually, I take that back. Something we talked about in our Secret Societies show. Adam, remember we talked about the Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, and how some of these secret societies are actually sworn enemies of each other.
Mm-hmm.
We view all these secret societies as
right.
something that there's one of them and they're all working towards the same goal. No, not necessarily. The Illuminati, I don't know if there's anybody out there, even, 3 people in the rich that are saying, we're the Illuminati. I think there's Freemasons. I think there's Rosicrucians. I think there's lots of these different sects out there.
The only one I ever see advertised are Freemasons. In my life right now,
sure.
I work with a Freemason.
Sure, I do too.
Yeah, so that's the only one I know.
But they're low level though. The ones
yeah.
they're low level.
Oh, absolutely.
But there was a thing being kicked around by the big time tinfoil hats a while ago, especially when the ISIS thing was going. They're like, what the hell is going on with ISIS? This is crazy stuff. And there was this idea being kicked around that there was a civil war going on between the Illuminati, between the secret societies, that they're warring amongst each other, that lends to the instability, the specific instability of our world right now, is this idea that we have some of these groups controlling it all that aren't seeing eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
And are rallying against one another.
You could remember the whole AIDS argument. AIDS was introduced by the Illuminati.
Sure.
They wiped out one population they didn't feel was so how they wanted it to.
Well, and now we know that the CIA. Has something to do with that.
It hit two populations they didn't really put a high level of esteem. The drug users and the others, which is sad. But you can easily see how that is planned.
Absolutely. What this theory of mine is moving towards is, are the Republicans and Democrats very indirectly, are the left-wingers and the right-wingers, might be a better way to put it, because then you get to bring in other developed nations as well, European nations, Asian nations as well, when you talk about the right-wingers and the left-wingers. Are they indirectly or very base public offshoots of the two sides of this Illuminati civil war, if you will, of this deep state civil war? Are these the two offshoots? Are these the public face, the public persona of what they are trying to do in the in the background? And I guess what this really leads me to is, does this answer the question, because this is one of the questions I always have, does this answer the question of why are they, meaning the deep state, meaning those controlling, why are they not more successful? Why are they not more successful in controlling us and in bringing forth whatever end game the deep state has? Is that the reason why they're not successful? Because there are warring factions at work here.
Well, I guess my response would be, how are you measuring success? Because to me, it seems like they've been fairly successful.
That's my next question. That is my next question. This is the dialectic I'm leading to, is that is everyone involved, and are they already successful?
I was wrong. Yes.
Have they already been successful in their goal? Is the goal that there is one great deep state moving towards one goal? Or is it there are 2 or more factions warring against each other, each going for different goals? Or is the goal what has already been accomplished, controlled chaos amongst the people, and the deep state, if you will, we'll use that term for all intents and purposes, is the deep state already happy with everything that's going on? The bankers are making their money, the rich are getting richer, the government's in control, the people are being watched, everything is happening, And all this unrest that we view as failure, in essence, is that all just part of the, as you pointed out at the very beginning of the show, Kyle, is that all just part of their who cares? It's this idea that it doesn't matter what the peasants are doing. We have already established our deep state. We have already established everything we want, and let the peasants argue over gay marriage. Let the peasants argue over how dopey Donald Trump is.
Or taxes.
Right.
Or healthcare.
Right. And let them think
'Cause they don't
that
care
they're
about those
winning,
things,
that
yeah.
they're winning little victories by having the government pay for their doctor visits, or by getting a tax cut, or getting a tax refund. A hilarious idea, considering that a refund that, okay, money was stolen from you and then they gave you a little bit back. But and I guess that is my question. And I kind of feel like at this point, let's leave the people listening with that question, and then we'll just kind of finish like we always do here on Deep Issues with a last thought from each one of us. We'll start with our director, the man. He hasn't said a ton today, but Adam, deep state. What's up? Is there a deep state?
Not to the extent that I think a lot of people want to think that there's a deep state. I think there's certain little tiny factions involved, but otherwise it's an excuse for somebody not getting something done or getting a lesson in checks and balances.
Ed Zaharsky, you've said a lot tonight, but you also have looked like you've had everything on the tip of your tongue all night. Ed, is there a deep state?
Well, of course there's a deep state. I think, of course, I'm pretty much the opposite of Adam. I think we're basically getting close to the end game, and what might appear like factions, maybe there are some sort of factions, but I think for the most part things are going as planned, and this is just all part of the game.
Kyle, you've been away for a little while. It was awesome to have you back. Is there a deep state?
Yeah, of course there's deep state, and I think it kind of goes on the lines of, I think that there, you know what, there's always been a deep state, okay, and I think now more than ever it's becoming more realized, or people are saying, hopefully there's a deep state. Anybody back there? Let's just get this done. You know, come on. You know, and I not that I'm saying that he's doing anything there to influence it, but nonetheless, I think there's some controlling factors, and I think they are embedded within our governments and organizations, which are then linked to private enterprise. And I think that's the way it's been for, decades now. And, it's a reality we live in, and I think the only reason why it's so prevalent today is the things that are going on. And I also would believe, too, that information is inundating us all the time. It's too much. And that could be part of the deep state. Mm-hmm. Flood them with information so they can't concentrate on anything, right? And it's true. Look at it. There's nothing we can't go research and figure out today, huge distraction. Before we didn't have that distraction, we could pay attention to what's going on. So I think a lot of things are happening behind the scenes because of our lack of attention. And I really think that our apathy within people, don't even know local representatives, governments, what do you know what's going on? That's going to kill this country. So I wish people just get involved.
Good points by everybody. I actually agree with a little bit of what every one of you guys said just now at the end, even though they were opposites in a lot of ways. I really kind of like something Kyle said, that the deep state always existed and it does exist now. I would take it a step further and say that, yes, I agree with that. There is a deep state. I would venture to say that as government grows, then naturally the deep state grows with it. And I would actually then take it even a step past that and say that the deep state grows exponentially as government grows. So when you talk about big government, you talk about small government. In essence, back hundreds of years ago, a lot of countries were monarchies. You maybe didn't have as much of a deep state because a monarchy, although totalitarian in nature, isn't actually big government. A monarchy is actually small government in a lot of ways, which is everything a libertarian is against and everything a libertarian is for, all at the same time. Plato once wrote about the idea of a philosopher king. In essence, this is an idea of a totalitarian monarch ruling over a people who have rights. It's not exactly what Plato said, but it can be construed as such. So is there a deep state? I think there is. Yeah, I definitely think there is. And I think it links to a lot of other things. I personally believe that things are not as they seem. And that the vast majority of what we think we know is smoke and mirrors, nothing more. The world is not what we think it is. No, that doesn't mean I think it's flat. I believe it is time, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it is time to go to the all-knowing, all-seeing Pumpkin.
Yep, and what we're gonna do usually that, you know, when Kyle and Ed are both here is we'll have them both pick one, and then we'll take from one of the two that they picked. So
okay, and we will have, you know, I hate to question the will of Pumpkin, and I'm going to throw something out there, Adam, that we should have discussed when we weren't live on air, but we're going to discuss while we're live on air. Ed will not be here for the next Deep Issues show.
Mm-hmm.
So if Pumpkin reveals to us something that
an Ed topic,
is totally up Ed's alley, we are going to reserve the right to not do it, but to perhaps postpone it.
Okay.
Whether we postpone it to the next Deep Issues show, or whether we switch up our regular schedule of the second and fifth week of the month and allow for Ed to be there. Hopefully Kyle can be there too, but I know his schedule does, you know, sometimes...
A little harder.
Yeah, it's harder to work around. So that is the only caveat we are throwing. I hope Pumpkin does not punish me in this life or in an afterlife because of it. Because I know Pumpkin does have that power. So now you were going to read them both? Kyle and Ed have both chosen a topic? Oh, okay, no. You were just simply going
to... get to know what the other one was?
Nope.
Never.
Better that way.
Never know. Okay. Kyle and Ed have both chosen something out of the Mystical Pumpkin. Adam mixed them up scientifically in his paws and dropped one back in the bucket.
Well, Kyle's a scientist, so
Yeah.
it was...
Ed is a mathematician and Kyle is a scientist.
So
Adam and I are podcasters.
You guys ready?
We are ready, sir.
The perhaps next Deep Issues is, wow, you know what? It's funny because we kinda just did this one, but it'll be fun to kind of piggyback off of it again. I don't know. I really don't know if this is an Ed one or not. I guess we'll find out here in just a second.
Well, we will keep the audience posted as to whether or not we'll be moving it or not later, at a later date.
The Pumpkin has given us alternate dimensions / ghosts.
Ooh, I love that one. That is cool. That's yeah. And we just did our Halloween special a couple weeks ago where we did talk about ghosts and we visited some ghosts. And last week we had some goofy ghost stories about my own personal, family members, which was kind of fun.
Yep.
So this will be cool. Alternate dimensions and ghosts. Next up on the Deep Issues cast. But before that, we have many good shows lined up for you. We have some good guests coming up. Rich Booth is going to be on in the next couple weeks, talking about competitive gaming. We have a lot of other cool things lined up for you. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to the Deep State. Hopefully, we lent some insight. I have a feeling, like many of our Deep Issues shows, that we provided more questions than we did answers, but that is kind of the nature of knowledge, is it not? So
No, it was definitely, I like the different perspectives, so.
yeah, it was cool. So I do love it. When we have all four of us on, we sometimes kind of don't all get to say everything we want to say, but I do prefer it when all four of us are on too, because we definitely get some good conversation and good insight. So for Kyle Puska, for Ed Zaharsky, for Adam Hernandez, the heart and soul of the EmpireMedia.com, and for me, Josh Auslander, thank you so much for tuning in. Catch us next month for another Deep Issues, and catch us next week for more XCast here on the EmpireMedia.com.